So today we're going to be presenting Information Overload, Teen Pressures in 2021. So just as an introduction, I'm Emily and I'm a research manager at Sherbet Research. We are a small boutique kids, teens and family research agency, and we work across all sectors from media to education to sports and FMCG. And I'm very excited to be here today to talk alongside James from Channel 4, who'll be introducing himself next, about a fascinating project that we worked on all about teens today. We spoke to teens back in November of 2020, all about kind of what's going on in their worlds and the pressures that they're facing. And then we have then gone back into the field to speak to some more teenagers as part of this presentation to see what's changed and to get some lovely footage to bring them to life, which you will see later on. So I'm going to pass you on to James, who will introduce himself and tell you a bit more about the project they commissioned us to run.
Thanks, Emily. So, hi, I'm James Hamilton. I run audience planning at Channel 4, and that is a job where we take audience insight and use it to look at what's kind of strategic recommendations we would make as a result of that insight. So, as part of that role, I do quite a bit of work with commissioning, and this was a question that came to us from one of our digital commissioners, who had been approached or given the task of creating teen content for our channel and our platforms. Stepping back a bit from that, as a public service broadcaster, we obviously have a responsibility to provide a range of high quality and original content for children and for young teenagers. And despite the fact that linear TV viewing among those audiences, so teens and young teens and older children, has declined, PSBs like Channel 4, BBC, ITV, they still remain a valued and trusted source for programming that reflects those audiences' lives. To ensure that our provision remains as relevant as possible to that audience, we've invested in a new teen strand sitting predominantly on social platforms. The theory being that if children are watching less TV on linear TV, we obviously shouldn't give up on them, but we probably need to go where they're going. And so to produce content that sits natively on the kind of platforms where they're consuming content. So we're offering short and mid-form original programming designed to play a vital role in filling that gap in the market's provision of innovative and trusted public service content for a younger teen audience. We approached Sherbet with a pretty simple brief for this one. Can you help us understand this audience? We needed to provide a steer to our suppliers. Channel 4 works with a range of independent production companies to produce this kind of content, to provide a steer on both the subject matter that we should be looking at or prioritising for this audience, and also the tone and the approach that we should be taking to make sure that what we produce for them feels as relevant and as resonant for that audience as possible. So I'll hand back to Emily, who's going to talk through some of the research findings and tell us what we learned.
Great, thanks James. So let's start by looking at who 13 to 16-year-olds are and what is kind of important to them. So they're very realistic about what life in today's world means, be this in how they think about the future, their understanding of money, or kind of what is and isn't possible for them. They don't commit to brands as they did in the past, they're a bit more sceptical, and they really care about what brands stand for. They're more globally aware than ever before. They understand that it kind of is their responsibility to change the world, and they know that what happens in the future is on them and will really impact their generation. They're constantly connected. We call them the kind of first digitally innate generation, which means that they have and expect instant access to everything, which obviously, as expected, has its good and its bad sides, which we'll talk about a bit more later. We say that they're kind of curators rather than creators of content. This is why they love the likes of TikTok, as they are able to kind of create a viewing experience that is right for them and what they care about. Equality is assumed for this generation. Things like gender and sexuality are not assumed, but they believe that everyone should be equal, and they kind of take that in their stride. And finally, mental health is something that's a real concern for them. They worry about it, and it's something that they all have kind of either experienced or know someone that has kind of experienced it at this time. So what matters to teens today? As expected and as has been for forever, friendships and fitting in is really important to teenagers. It's something that they worry about, especially at the younger age of the spectrum when they're kind of starting secondary school and they're kind of trying to navigate the world and their friendships. And especially this year, as they've moved online, it's become an increasing concern as they've kind of had to navigate their friendships in a whole other world where they aren't able to see people face to face. So especially those kind of younger ends of the teens have found it really difficult, the 13-year-olds who potentially started school and have had a lot kind of tipped upside down for them when they've moved into a new environment and haven't been able to form friendships in the way they might have in the past. They really want to be heard and believe that it's their right to be listened to, and they can find it quite difficult when adults don't give them a voice. It's important for them to be and interact with brands that feel authentic. They're very wary of fake, especially online, and they're aware that the likes of Instagram and social media is a place where people can kind of pretend to be someone that they're not. This is something that one of the boys talks about really nicely in the video that we'll show you later on. Success, again, is really important to them, but what this means can differ. They strive to achieve their best and kind of tick this box of being successful. But as they get older, so that at the top end of this teen year, so the 15 to 16-year-olds, they become more realistic about what this means and what it might look like for them. And finally, the world around them is really important, especially since COVID and over the last few years as climate change has kind of taken this centre stage. They're really concerned about what the future might bring for them and their generation and how they can play a part in supporting things. So let's take a look at the pressures that teens today are feeling. So under a lot of pressure in their lives, and you'll see them talk a bit more about this in the video, but I'll quickly take you through some of the key areas. So inevitably, school is kind of their number one pressure. Especially at the moment with COVID and everything that's happened over the last year. It has been tipped on their heads for many of them, and those who have been going through their GCSEs have really seen that the process that they thought things went through and would go through as they went through their teen lives has just no longer the case, and they don't really know what's going on and how to navigate it, so it's quite a big pressure for them. They worry about achieving what they aspire to do. Pressures from social media mean that young people are kind of bombarded with unattainable images, especially, as mentioned before, on things like Instagram. And they see young people, so influencers online, who might have these perfect lives, perfect jobs, and they kind of wish that they could achieve that as well. Relationships are a big pressure for teenagers, something they've been for a while, and especially over this last year as things have moved online. It's been even harder than it has been in the past. So we've seen when we speak to teenagers that many of them have reduced their social circles and are kind of focusing on fewer and stronger relationships rather than being able to keep up as many as they have in the past. And then finally, these three at the bottom, so not feeling listened to, fear of judgment and uncertain world, I spoke a little bit about before. And it's something that we've kind of looked at as what's important to them. And over the last year, these things have kind of been exasperated. They really want to be listened to. They worry about their relationships with peers and being judged, and about what the future holds for the world. And they kind of learn that nothing can really be assumed when it comes to the future. So a couple more pressures that I want to look at. So these two feed into each other. So as mentioned at the start, the online world means that teens today are constantly bombarded with information, and this can be really overwhelming for them as they try to navigate it all and figure out what is and isn't true. So this goes hand in hand with something that we've seen teens talk about, which is overthinking. So when we spoke to teens back in November, one of the girls we met said this quote, which is, "Overthinking is the killer of teens." And you'll hear from the teens themselves what they think of this statement. But ultimately, it can be anything from really small to really big. And they kind of blow things out of proportion, which can really feed into their anxieties. And especially as everything is online, they've got more time to think about the words that people say, the things that they're doing, and it's leading to even more anxiety than in the past. But it's not all doom and gloom. So here's a few ways that they kind of relax and get away from these pressures and relieve their stress. So firstly, we have music, which teens love. It's a great way to escape from everything in the world. escapist type TV. So this can be anything from kind of reality TV shows to old TV shows that they used to watch as when they were younger, things that they love and rewatch, and even things that they watch with their families. So mention of shows like Friends and The Bake Off and Love Island are great for these moments. A lot of them, especially this year, have taken up some great fun and playful hobbies. So this can be things like sports or being creative, and then even going out and spending time with their friends doing the things that they love. Social media, even though it can be a source of quite a lot of pressure and stress in their lives, it's also a way that they get away and kind of take a step back. Especially things like TikTok, they can spend hours scrolling and watching funny videos. And yeah, it's a great getaway. Gaming, as we know, has kind of boomed in the last year. And it's a great way to take a step back and interact with their friends and kind of be in this different world that just isn't reality today. And then finally, sleeping. We know that young people love to sleep. It's part of their development and it's something that they spend a lot of time doing. So let's have a quick look at this little video that we've got where we've got the teens talking about what being a teenager today is all about.
Mental health. I think it's quite common, but loads of people don't speak about it and they just keep it to themselves.
School a lot. A big weight sort of just drops down on you. Most kids our age feel they have to sort of like apply the standards on social media. You see all these big names, big celebrities living big lives, and you sort of want to sort of recreate that. So sort of you feel like you don't want to show you on the internet, you want to show the best side of you.
The pressure of people like judging you at school, because there's a lot of that. A lot of people at my school who just are rude and judge if you look different, if you act different.
About the future, because sometimes I don't know what I'm going to do, because we have to start looking at colleges, and I still feel like I'm too young for all of that. And
there's a lot of people that look at people on Instagram and they can constantly compare themselves, and that gives stress to the child because they want to look like that or they want to do something like that. And I think what media shows is how people look at themselves, which is really sad because it's kind of got to that. Especially in lockdown, you literally have nothing else to do. So you're following TikTok, you're following the footsteps of that, then you're doing this because that person done it. And it's kind of just this ongoing thing that just leads one after the other.
Image, I think, is obviously quite a large issue at the moment with social media. So body image, what you wear.
Even me and loads of other people overthink about stuff that doesn't need to be thought about that much, and that they make it a lot worse in their head and spiral like different possibilities of something bad could happen.
Every friend. I might not have been able to think of it, but definitely there's something that just comes into your mind, and there's something about thinking about it just makes you think of not the good things about it, but more the bad things. There's something that you thought that was never really a part of it.
Rethinking something makes it worse because you think of everything bad that could come out of it instead of just thinking about the good. It's like the thought kills us mentally because we're thinking so much.
Definitely during the lockdown, I think that's become even more of a big thing because people were almost solely communicating through messaging, where any social body language or signals are almost impossible. And even on a video call, it's hard. The only way to get over overthinking is to just do something. And when you're stuck in a house, you can't really just do something. And yeah, it's a big issue, and I suppose it's why it leads a lot of people into struggling with social situations and having that anxiety.
Sure, people doubt themselves a lot, and they don't think that they're good enough to do something and don't see what they're actually capable of.
You'd be able to dream as big as you want, really, as long as you can definitely know you can kind of stick to it.
You dream about stuff that you want to do. There are things you'll just think, oh, that's just pathetic, I'm a kid, that's not going to happen. I'm probably going to end up like this. No way, I'm going to be able to do that. I think that's what kills a lot of people's dreams, is them thinking, oh, I can't.
We can't really do things that teens in the past did. Like, I used to want to be a footballer, and I started playing for an academy, and then as soon as lockdown hit, that just ended everything, stopped everything. Well, like, all of your hopes have just ended, really, and you're gonna have to kind of start over everything.
I don't know, I don't see too much harm in aiming for that, because I mean, you can aim for that and not have to achieve it if it's going to drive you harder into doing something.
So let's have a look at media and the brands that teens today are turning to. So first and foremost, they want and expect brands to be responsible and respectful, and these are the ones that they tend to trust most. They're highly aware of fake online and know that they can't trust everything that they see. They're most wary of the brands that are trying to sell things to them or don't really treat people or the planet as they should do. Often we hear them talking about heading to Google if they see something that they're not sure about online, so they'll look to fact check what they have just read. But at the same time, they do trust in the big brands. So one of the boys in the video that you'll see a bit later talks about how someone like the BBC would never lie to them, and they think that these big brands kind of are truthful and are a reliable source of information. So for teens today, media brands are integral to their world. It's how they interact with friends, it's how they learn, it's how they're supported, it's how they connect with each other in the world, and it's how they're entertained. But of course, as we'll see in a second, what these brands mean to them and how they interact with them does develop throughout the teen years, and the ones that they most relate to will change. So let's have a quick look at some of the media brands in their lives, which ones they choose, and how they use them can change throughout the teen years. So we'll start with TikTok, which we know has kind of exploded in the last year especially. It's a place where anyone can be famous. You don't have to pay money. You don't have to have lots of followers to become famous, and anyone can be there. There's no commitment to the app, and it can give you endless entertainment. We've spoken to teens that have spent 8+ hours a day kind of just scrolling through and getting lost in TikTok. And it's a really important place for brands to be today. Snapchat, this is kind of their real me. It's how they interact with their friends on a day-to-day basis. It's where they share what they're doing in the here and now, and it's unfiltered, so it's really just who they really are, which is opposing to Instagram, which is all about being the perfect me. It's creating your personalized brand and kind of feels often unattainable, and that's where there can be a lot of negative talk from teenagers about social media when it comes to Instagram. And you'll see one of the boys talks about how when you're on Instagram, you're not who you really are. It's about creating an image that you want to share with others. Then when it comes to viewing, Netflix is that kind of go-to throughout childhood, teenage years, and even into adulthood. It's personalised to you and it knows what you enjoy, so it's so easy to use and they can just pick up where they left off. They also can watch it wherever they are. So one of the boys that we met this time round said that he has it on his phone, on his computer, even on his Alexa, so he can watch it wherever he is in the house, in the world, at a time that suits him. YouTube is something that we've kind of been watching recently, and we've seen that the way that it's used, especially in this teen audience, is changing. It's become that kind of Google for teens. It's great for discovering new things, learning new activities, and then also for distraction. At the upper end, they're doing less of their watching of specific YouTubers and using it as that kind of source of information. And finally, Spotify is kind of the go-to for their listening needs. They love that they can curate their own music experience. It gets to know them personally, and it's a great way for discovering new music and also sharing it with friends. So now I'll show you a little video about media in teens' lives and what it means to them.
Well, music helps teens a lot, I'd say. Teens are always listening to music. Whatever you listen to, I know it can really help calm you down. You get documentaries and stuff like that where that can help us with school.
It fulfills my knowledge to things that I might not know before, or like I might see a fitness instructor, I'm like, oh my God, I really like that. And then I do some more research and that's a job or that's something I like to go into. So I think it opens up your mind.
I think YouTube has been helping quite a lot right now because I'm not that good at science. So I've been trying to get better this past month. And I've created like a bunch of revision cards and watched quite a lot of YouTube videos about science.
YouTube is good in the sense of it's more real life things, if that makes sense. Whereas Netflix is a lot of like brands, but I like watching the documentaries on there because I think they also help teenagers understand the world more. Like some like documentaries of things that have happened, it gives teenagers a deeper insight that, okay, that happens in our world, so you need to be more cautious of this or you need to look out for this.
If you're like a big social media star, you can get lots of hate comments.
We'll always disagree no matter what you do.
I think the reason I trust them is because people tell you to. If so many people use the BBC, it's got to be reliable. Because there'll be people that use the BBC, see something, and if it wasn't real, they'd say something about it.
Because the media is like, this is what it is, this is what it is. It like enforces an opinion on you, which I think is really hard because you then feel scared to have a different opinion because when this opinion's being broadcasted to the world, you feel everybody's going to have that and support that opinion.
This like echo chamber of just reaffirming your own views. The unrealism of especially photo-based social medias like Instagram, where if you're spending too much time on it, you can just completely skew your idea of what regular life is or what regular people look like. And it's just, you get into this strange world where everything's completely perfect because you think that this picture represents like what they're like 24/7.
We've got the news wherever we want. I could check it right now on my phone. I've got the laptop. On the way to school, I check the news sometimes. On the way home, before going to bed, the little notifications that you get from Apple News if you've got an iPhone. It's everywhere.
I think it's good in some sense that you're able to find this out. So I have that option to go and look, but then sometimes I think it can be overwhelming because the media or like technology looking up online can portray something in a different way than it actually is.
It's such a big, like a double-edged sword, how it's forked into, you can find everything out. And obviously now people can be way more informed than ever because you have almost all knowledge just there. But then obviously you're trying to filter through a lot of untrue stuff. And then obviously more and more now, and it's clearly a huge issue that finding the truth is very, very, very hard. The best thing is to just vary as much as they can in how they get a reach, as in varying platforms. So I know Channel 4 at the moment, I've seen them using platforms even on Snapchat, TikTok.
So I'll now pass over to James, who will tell you what all of this has meant for Channel 4.
Thanks, Emily. So what's it meant? Well, it played a vital role for us in informing that creative brief that I mentioned earlier, the one that went out to Indies. As some of you may know, Channel 4 doesn't make any of its own content. Everything we make is commissioned. And those commissions are sort of contingent upon like a really, really strong, clear brief that defines the target audience. And for this one, that was crucial. It's really brought that audience to life for them. And we've been amazed and really heartened by the breadth and the quality of ideas that have come back from that brief. Currently, the stage we're at the moment, we're concept testing a range of those ideas, again with the target audience, it's the teen audiences. And you should expect to see the fruits of this work on our social platforms first and foremost. So that's going to be Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, in the coming months. So I'll just hand back to Emily now just to say goodbye and close. Thank you.
Thanks, James. So just to finish off, let's kind of take a step back and think about what all of this means for commissioning to teens. So just a few things to remember. These young people are hugely informed. They have really high expectations and they want to feel in control. So take those things into consideration when creating content for them. They expect that they can find you anywhere. You need to be easily accessible to them. They're quite lazy, so it should feel something that's intuitive and that they don't have to put too much effort in to find. And be real and authentic. They know they're quite skeptical and they can kind of pull out where people aren't being who they really are or being authentic, and if something does feel a bit fake or staged. And then content should kind of help them to relieve these pressures, give them a voice, and show them that they're not alone in this world. So ultimately, when you're commissioning, you have a twofold role in helping them to navigate the world and the future that they have ahead of them. It's about being there for them, kind of hitting those boxes and reaching their expectations, but also allowing them to kind of sit back and just enjoy what they're watching. Thank you all for listening, and if you have any questions, please contact us on our email addresses, which are in this slide.
Thank you.